Numinous Podcast with Carmen Spaniola.
Hi there, and welcome to the Numinous Podcast, where we have interesting conversations with everyday folks about the mystery of life. I'm your host, Carmen Spaniola, joining you from the lands of the Syilx Okanagan First Nation, just a short drive away from a small town known as Summerland, BC, Canada. This is the biggest announcement I've ever made, not just on a podcast, but I think in my life. I feel like this is bigger than I'm pregnant or getting married, for me anyway. And it's definitely bigger than a book deal, even. This is something I've been thinking about for the past at least 4 years or so, since I was in the midst of the pre-order campaign, the launch campaign for my first book, The Spirited Kitchen. So that was like 2021. And the nudge got even stronger as I was in negotiations for my second book, Spells for the Apocalypse. I do want to say right off the bat, thank you very much to my agent, Sharon Bowers, who facilitated both of those. I am eternally grateful, and nothing I'm about to say will ever take that away. I'm also very grateful to my editors, Isabel and Maya at Countryman Press, an imprint of W.W. Norton. They have been absolutely flawlessly fabulous. But now with both of those works out in the world and both of them doing really well without a lot more help from me, the nudge that I got in 2021 has felt more like a call, a very strong poke, a strong pull towards something, well, pretty scary, honestly. But, don't all good adventure stories begin with accepting some risk, venturing into the unknown? And what makes it a great story is that the protagonists don't yet know what they don't know. So it's a fun time. It is my great, tremendous pleasure to announce that along with my colleagues and co-founders Taraneh Erfan and Thérèse Cator, I am embarking on a new venture to publish world-building books that help readers develop meaningful answers to the question, how then shall we live in these times? Our new company, Ninth House Press, is a worker cooperative. So a worker cooperative is a business where the workers own and democratically control all of the aspects of the business. It foregrounds two really, and I would say equally important primary purposes. If you can have two primary purposes, it's to provide employment and a better quality of work life for its members, but it's also to provide a community benefit. That's where the co-op comes in. It's not just that you own the business that you work in and you do it together and you share all the decision making and creative direction and administration all together. It's also that you are driven by this guiding principle. And we see this work of publishing uncompromisingly liberatory books as an important part of the movement for civil rights and for protection of intellectual freedom. So in the similar vein to like libraries and free press. So that is just as important to us in the founding of this business as our own economic liberation. So we see our taking more control and ownership of the means of production, like meaning the ways we access liberatory information. We see that as a critical shift away from an industry that honestly, like the publishing industry, is overflowing with talented women, especially women, queer, non-binary folks, and they're making money for white shareholding men. Generally speaking, I do want to say W.W. Norton, my publisher, is also a cooperative. It's also a worker co-op. So nothing I'm about to say is a reflection of them necessarily. However, I'm just over the moon excited. We're starting a small press, y'all. So here's 10 things that excite me about this. Number one, I'm in business, a worker co-op with my two dear friends, Taraneh and Thérèse. And this is wildly exciting to me. And it's also very healing. If you've been around for a while, you can imagine, it's like a corrective experience for me. It feels so wonderful. Number two, we're not going to just publish our own books, though we have our own books in the catalog coming up, but also we plan to acquire up to probably 8 to 10 total, and in the future, perhaps up to 12 titles a year. Number three, we're publishing works that will tell us stories and give us models for how we're going to seed the future with the best humanity has to offer: compassion, creativity, connection. Four, our world building books will each have their own limited edition book bling. So useful and beautiful swag that relates to the content of the book. So, maybe sometimes it's just a simple cloth bag or stickers, but sometimes maybe it's seeds. Sometimes it's t-shirts, but sometimes it's art. Sometimes, what I would love is like a branded multi-tool. There's so many ideas. Five, we already have initial acceptance for a book called Farm Stand News by Marianne Unger, whose pandemic-inspired neighborhood farm stand and newsletter has become a model for mutual aid. It's philosophical, it's poetic, and it has this lyric nostalgia that reminds me of a prairie home companion. I'm super excited about it. We also have a verbal confirmation from another first-time author who was a recent guest on this podcast. Cannot wait to announce that. Six, we are actively wooing these other authors for our fall-winter publication date, but right now we're opening submissions. So we are eager to see what kinds of submissions we receive by this year's deadline. November 15th, 2025 is the submissions deadline for proposals for inclusion in our January catalog and for publication in fall-winter 2026. There's details about that on our website, ninthhousepress.com. That's 9THHOUSEPRESS.com. Okay, number 7, this I love. We're going to have street teams. So I envision this almost like a business in a box, particularly for my disabled and employment challenged friends or followers who would like to support our work, but also make money selling our catalog of titles and our book bling at festivals, markets, fairs, concerts. It's very punk. It's really giving anarchist book fair. I love it so much. Applications for that will open soon. They're not open yet, but they will open soon. More details coming. Number 8, this is so important to me. Our royalties are going to favor the author. So our net royalties will start at 50%, which is, normally they start at like 10, and we will have increasing escalators. 9, in a completely new twist for alternative publishing models. This is unheard of, my friends. Anybody in the publishing industry is going to go, how are you going to make money? That's not you. If you don't own somebody's intellectual property for the rest of your life and their lives, how are you going to make money? I think that's exploitation. So what we're going to do is, after 7 years, authors are fully returned their rights with an option to renew print and distribution with us. So we want to honor our value of enthusiastic, ongoing consent and collaboration with our fellow authors. The nice thing about that is, let's say, right now, The Spirited Kitchen is owned 100% by my publisher. And if I was like, gosh, there were a couple really glaring mistakes, I would like those corrected. And also there's some updates I would like to do. And I would like to do that in time for a 10th anniversary. We would need to start that discussion probably 3 years in advance of the publication date and negotiate, make the changes, go through, and then relaunch it. But if they don't want to do that, they don't have to do that. I have no say whatsoever because they own it. It's essentially like they commissioned me to write their book for them, And that's not just them. That's the entire publishing industry. So you don't actually own your intellectual property in a traditional publishing deal. So totally new. We are going to just return those rights to the author we hope that they will want to renew with us. But if they wanted to um, do an updated issue and sell it to someone else, or if they wanted to just distribute on their own, they could totally do that. And 7 years is kind of the nice timeline for them to be able to make some decisions about a 10-year anniversary reprint. And then finally, the thing that super excites me is we're going to publish the books that will help us hold ground on the left, on the side of compassion, on the side of collective care against the rising tide of fascism. That is our bottom line. And we hope you're as excited about this idea as we are. But if you're not already convinced, here's a conversation between myself, Thérèse, and Taraneh. So, Thérèse, what identities do you lead with?
Hi, Carmen. Hi, Taraneh. I'm so grateful to be here with you both. I was thinking about this question and I was like, okay, I've been on here numerous times, so what am I gonna say? And really, something hit me yesterday about what to say. And I feel like this is the identity that I am embracing, and that is that I am beloved by my ancestors and by the earth, by you all, by people who are close to me. And, I feel like oftentimes I've resisted love or being that by God, even unknowingly. So that's what's really present of like, I want to embrace that I am beloved and walk in those ways. So of course there's many other identities like, you know, I was born in Haiti and I was raised in Brooklyn and I'm a mom and I'm a Black woman and so many other identities. However, that's the one that's really present that I want to embrace.
I love that. I love that so much. It's so true. It's so resonant. Oh, thank you. How about you, Taraneh?
I also have answered this question a few times and have previously found it very difficult to answer. I really appreciate you sharing, Thérèse, in such a heartful way. And I guess what comes up today is the identities I'm leading with are storyteller and survivor. And yes, similar to Thérèse, yeah, I have the identities of mom and therapist and writer and immigrant and, all of those things, but storyteller and survivor stand out the most.
Mm, potent. Thank you. I love the way you're both answering. I feel called to update my own then. As always, I do find settler identity so important to me. It's so formative for me. It's been such a formative thing to recognize, oh shit, I'm a settler. And since I have moved to new lands, I'm newly a resident of the Seal Okanagan lands. I feel it. I really feel displaced and displacing. But here in this call today, and I would say in the world, I lead with woman who is in perimenopause turning 50 this year who does not suffer fools. I just don't. I just have worked so long and hard to not have that kind of aggravation in my life. and and I'm just kind of sick of wasting time on people who aren't building the world that I want and that I want for my kid and that I want for you both and each other, all of us together. So I would definitely say in this project, those are identities I'm leading with is like, sisters, we can do this for ourselves and we can do this in the way that we want and that we know in our bones is the way it ought to be. So That's how I'm arriving. Thérèse, what inspired you to throw in with me and Taraneh and form a worker co-op together?
I'm like, I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. No, it was one of those things where I was like, do I have time for this? No. Am I supposed to do this? Yes. That's really my honest answer. It was just like a call from spirit, and it was just like a deeper call. And it was like, yeah, this is what you're supposed to be. I'm like, I'm so tired, but this is what you're supposed to be doing. And in what is like listening to that call and answering that call, I feel like that's been an overall theme in my entire life. But things have been happening magically and miraculously, like the way that things have come together even more easily than possible. And I know one of the things that we've talked about is about, oh, doing this with your friends. It's like, oh my God, so bad. Is this bad? Is this like a really bad idea? And the thing is, I was like, I can't picture any other two people that I would want to do this with. So it's just like it's perfect in that sense. And maybe I'm being super naive. However, I don't think I am. I really don't. I don't think I am. And I think it is one of the things. I know, Carmen, you had sent this text and you wrote around in a few years' time, what is the vision? And part of that vision is liberation for women, liberation for non-binary folks, liberation for queer folks, and I just think about the people who share their voices often have no control or no say in how it's put out in the world. It's more of like a consumption and an extraction and where those folks are often left. And when I say those folks, I'm including myself, like those folks are left with very, very little, if nothing, like the scraps. And so it felt also something that's bigger than me, bigger than us, it felt important. It felt important and worthwhile to put in the labor of love.
Mm, thank you. Yeah, I was writing about, I can't wait till a few years from now, we could look back and we'll be able to talk more about our vision for starting this that was about economic and intellectual liberation for women, non-binary, queer folk. And yeah, I get chills thinking about it. How about you, Taraneh? What made you think, work at co-op with friends? Okay.
Well, in one of our recent meetings when we were talking about, doing business with friends, quote unquote, and whether or not that's a good idea, I actually had this reflection that this idea of being pushed not to do business with friends comes from a business model that disconnects people from their humanity so that they can be really good worker bees inside of capitalism. Because the idea of don't do business with your friends is like, don't bring your life, don't bring your humanity into work because we want the most productivity out of you. And so, in fact, doing with business with our friends is like an anti-patriarchal, anti-capitalist, female or queer leadership type of model that I fucking love. Like, that's what I want. I want to be able to bring my whole self into my everyday, every aspect of my life. And I want to be spending my hours with humans who I care about, who also care about me, so that I don't feel like I'm just giving away my life for money. I'm like, oh no, like this is how I want to spend my time. And we are building something. So that part of it felt like a real yes to me. And then the other reason it was a clear yes is because every astrologer I've ever talked to is like, girl, what are you doing? Like, you're supposed to be writing and publishing. So I'm finally listening.
I'm so glad you are. I'm so glad you are. The astrologers give me this too. So they're like, no, you've got some years here. And I want to give a big shout out and huge thanks to Bonnie Clone and the gals at Tapestry Collective, who are another worker co-op of women in business together who coached and offered guidance counseling for us in the beginning with co-op setup. So yeah, there's examples out there, and I hope that there are more. And I also, it hasn't always been sunshine and butterflies with me in business with friends, but I've learned some things, and I think this is a response that the business model, the number of us, the astrological guidance, all of it is doing it different and not giving up just because it didn't work out so great the first time. And so, Taraneh, you said you want to be able to bring your whole self. What are some of the strengths or special skills that you bring to the mix? What, not just what the astrologers say, but that you can like really fully own?
Well, no pressure there. I think that if I tell the imposter syndrome voice to quiet down, what I know to be true is that in my ability to deeply listen, read with detail, look at the unsaid, listen for the things that are in the field, but aren't just so clear, and then to find basically like constellations, constellation patterns is a skill that, I've developed in my therapeutic work for years, but I think that it's something that I will bring into this work as well, which is when we're working with authors, when we're working behind the scenes, what else is there? Where do we need to go deeper? And perhaps part of that is intuitive work, but part of it is also like listening in this like bigger, wider way and wrapping my whole self, my energy self too around what's being said, what's not being said, who else can be in this conversation, who are the allies like in here in the human world and else who are like tapping us on the shoulder, asking to enter to really allow us to make something work. And so those are the kind of skills. I'm sure there's other things. I hope there's other things, but that's what really crystallizes right now as you ask that question. That feels like a place where I'm really excited to um, um, yeah, extend my energy out. And if I can live every day reading people's work and providing some feedback, that's my best life. So those are some of the things.
Well, and absolutely, there's so many more things too. But yes, this I'm saying yes, yes, yes to everything. For folks who don't know, Taraneh was my sensitivity reader for Spells for the Apocalypse. So that's like the first look, the first other person that gets to look at the actual writing, and your feedback, your notes, your edits were just so on point, so excellent, and they were very aligned with things that I maybe had an inkling, but felt my own imposter syndrome. Like, I don't know if I should, like, I don't know. Or is this too much? Should I do more? I just loved the editorial process with you. I'm so excited for other authors to have you doing developmental and other kinds of editing. But I'm also very excited about your own writing and your own poetry and the books that we're going to publish over the coming years with your name on them. I'm very excited about that.
Thank you. Me too.
How about you, Thérèse? Same question. As well as I'm going to lift up like the intuition. I think all three of us are bringing like excellent listening skills with that. And so I think of that when I think of you too, Thérèse. What are some of the other things you would say you're bringing, your strengths and special skills?
Yeah, the first thing that came up was intuition. Intuitive, being in the world of the unseen and bringing the unseen to the scene. I think I'm good at that. I think I'm really good at that. The unseen to the scene and being one of the things I was at an immersive this earlier this year, and one of the things that came up at the end was being able to bridge two worlds, the liminal space and this world. And I really do think in order for us to, for humanity, society to have a chance, it really is going to require that one foot in this world, one foot in the liminal world, one foot in the unseen, and one foot here. And so I think that's one of the things. And I think I'm good at seeing big picture things, like seeing the vision, and then it starts like, what are the pieces that need to be moved? I'm like moving my hands, like, what are the pieces? And then like literally taking the steps from those different pieces. Like I'm very resilient. And I know some people, I just want to say that might be a trigger warning because people are like resilient. I hate that word, but I don't mean it in the colonial sense. I see it as like I come from a line of revolutionaries. We don't fucking give up. Like, you think you're gonna stop me? No. Like I'm going to find a way. I think I'm the person that finds a way out of no way. So this also feels very, edgy, which is what I like. I think that's another reason going back to that question, like why I said yes. It's like the edgy of like, oh, okay, we can actually write our own permission slips. Like we can do something different. We don't have to wait for the powers that be. And that's so much in my astrology too. Um, and so, yeah, so I think those are some of the things that come forward.
I'm okay. This is a private sidebar between me and listeners who have ever had a book already published, an author. Could you even imagine? Could you even fucking imagine if a marketing director from a publisher was like, I see the vision and we are not going to stop. We're going to make this vision happen. And then they actually did it. I mean, this is one of the core strengths that I think you bring, Thérèse, is not only are you visionary, you are hardworking, you are unrelenting, you're an amazing networker, you're a fantastic teacher. Anybody who is like, oh, I'm a little nervous about being visible with my book is going to be so lucky to have you as the fairy godmother of the marketing campaign for these books. I'm going to sidebar now with anybody who's thinking of submitting to us who has never had a book before. It isn't like that in conventional publishing. That is not how it goes. You will get marketers. I mean, excuse me. I just have to speak plainly. If people were good marketers, they wouldn't be in the book marketing business. They would be doing some other kind of thing that was like more dynamic, that was more of the moment. Publishing as an industry is not strong at marketing, quite frankly. It's the individual authors who are out there grinding away. Even though these big publishers have entire marketing and PR departments, it's the individual authors. You feel very alone in it. You feel very alone. And most authors who are very successful are hiring their own teams. As this idea was a kernel in my mind, that was in the back of my mind, was I had done so much work as an author, even though I had a conventional, traditional, sort of second tier publisher. I just work like a dog. Now, I'm not saying that other authors wouldn't still have to work really hard, but to have visionary people like Thérèse, to have intuitive people like Taraneh, to have people like this who are believing in championing your book is pretty rare. It's pretty rare. And I've interviewed a lot of authors and I asked them all, how's it going with your publisher? So Thérèse, I want to ask you, our tagline or our vision and goal is world building books. Books that answer the question, how then shall we live in these times we find ourselves? And how will we create the world that is beyond this? What are some of the comparables? What are some of the books that you would consider the most influential in how you've learned to live in collapsed times? Like, what is already in print that you think would fit right into the Ninth House catalog?
This is such a good question. And I'm like, oh my God, there's so much. Yeah, there's so much. I mean, and I'm going to keep it maybe contemporary. And actually, this book is right on my desk, but I think um, the Combahee River Collective, that would definitely be something that I would love to be part of the press. I think the work of Melodome Patricome, it of Water and Spirit. I think also We Do This Till We Get Free by Mariam Kaba. There's so many. Emergent Strategy, I think, is amazing by Adrienne Marie, or compiled by Adrienne Marie Brown. Undrowned by Alexis Pauline Gumbs. I actually have this book on my desk right now, um, Haiti by Roxane Gay. This, these are just some of the books. I have so many books, but these are just some of them. And like I said, I've kept it contemporary of like things that I feel challenge, and also not only challenge, but give tangible steps. Um, Give tangible steps. Like these are blueprints. Oh, and I have to say, in terms of fiction, Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler, right? Though, like, I can read that over and over and over again. And those are the kinds of books, the kinds of works, I think the kinds of perspectives, the lens that I'm really interested in. I'm excited to hear what you all think too.
Yeah, your list, we have so much overlap. How about you, Taraneh? What are your world building books that you think would fit right in to the Ninth House catalog?
Mhm. Honestly, there's so much from what you said. I'm like, oh, there's so many similarities. And um, I also, I have a stack of books over there, and so many of them are similar. But the way that I want to, like, just something to add to what you're saying around this is, when I thought about it, I'm like, yes to these. One thought is, I wonder how happy some of these authors who we all have read and admire, how happy they've been in their publishing process. And maybe they want to come over and hang out with Ninth House Press in the future, because we are not here to overpower you. We're not here to take away your voice. We are here to uplift you. We're here to champion you. We are here to say, like, you still own your intellectual property. We are here to support you in getting your soul, your work, your words out there. And so that's one thing I wanted to add. And then the other thing is, like, I know in a previous meeting when we were chatting, it's like, I want to work with authors who are writing things that they're like, fuck, this is going to be banned before it's even hit the shelves, right? Like, those are the people I want to see coming and submitting to Ninth House, where they're writing something that they know is outside of uh, the kind of railways that traditional publishing houses are providing, which are in so many ways just silencing the people whose voice we most need. And so I know I'm kind of answering this question in a kind of a roundabout way, but I do think that these are pieces that I feel are really important to talk about. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, Carmen, and any and or if any books you want to add to what Thérèse already shared.
Oh, for sure. I like here. I'm like, people can't see, but I'm like snapping my fingers and clapping. I'm so excited about our royalty escalators, which, our commitment to ensuring that authors ultimately retain the rights to their work, and the royalty makeup favors the author and the creator is so important to me. So thank you for saying that. Yes to all the books you said, Thérèse. I have a particular interest in collapse and have read so many books on collapse. And, one of the books that is so seminal to me is The Long Descent by John Michael Greer. And this is not to take away anything from JMG, but I want to publish the works of women and queer people and women of the global majority and non-binary folks and trans folks. So that's just like full stop, period. In that genre, I would love to publish something by Sharon Astic. Her book, Depletion and Abundance, has been so fantastic. And we need more Sharon Astic in the world. But her book, Depletion and Abundance, I wish I'd published that. I think also Thick by Tressie McMillan Cottom. That is a book that would fit right into the vision. Sort of books of essays I'm very excited about, Bad Feminist, Hunger by Roxane Gay. Those are exactly the kind of things that could slide right onto the ninth house shelf. Also poetry, The Cure for Sorrow by Jan Richardson. Absolutely. That could be as Crushed Wild Mint by Jess Housty. Absolutely. I'd be so excited about that. And that's very aligned. And then fiction. I think about The Famished Road by Ben Okri and, magical realism, and definitely Parable of the Sower, everything in that kind of genre. Definitely would be excited about. So we're talking a little bit about genres and writers we're really excited about. So Taraneh, in terms of submissions, what are you looking for as our editor in chief? What are you looking for in submissions?
I am looking for people who are wanting to tell their truth, even if they're a little bit scared. I am looking for people who have previously felt like their voices don't matter, or that they have been their voices have been dampened in the rest of their lives, basically. I'm really excited to read from people who have identities of like immigrant or refugee or undocumented. I'm looking forward to reading from people who basically have felt on the outs, but are reclaiming their sense of self through their writing process. In terms of genres, I come from a culture where poetry is the basic foundation from which we build our lives. And so I'm really excited to read poetry that actually moves people. I know from like my upbringing that poetry is not just this like thing on the side that is like Instagrammable. It's a way to understand the complexity of our world in a really human, heart-centered way. And so I'm particularly interested in that. And I'm also really interested in creative nonfiction. So maybe it's not quite a memoir, maybe it's not quite fiction, but you're coming in somewhere in the middle, because so many people who are trying to find their voice and share their stories can really access that truth in a real way with that genre. So those are some of the ones that I'm most interested to read.
You mentioned your background, and so people may not know this about Persian Sufi culture. Can you just say like a little bit about what you mean when you say, because of my background, poetry has been really important?
Yeah. So I would say that, from a very basic level, like it's interesting. I was telling this story just the other day to some friends that when I was growing up after we immigrated to Canada, my parents had an alteration store where my mom would fix it. It was tearing, it was broken. My mom would fix it. Someone's favorite teddy had gone through the wash too many times. My mom would spend like days repairing it to a place that still smelt the same as when the kiddo brought it in. And while she was doing such soulful work, my dad was keeping the books and he was reading her poetry. Like this is the fabric from which I come from. On a larger scale, Persian culture is steeped in poetry for eons, basically. I mean, Rumi, Hafez, like those are just some of the names that have made it across the big pond over here. But um, you know, we would be learning to recite poetry in grade one. Like it was a thing you learn to do. And at every some momentous occasions throughout the year, you'd be sitting around and reading poetry. Like I still do that to this day with my kids during winter solstice. I still read to them. I read poetry to them. It, it's a big part of understanding the world. And part of it is like, instead of pulling oracle cards in our culture, it was like, open a Hafiz poetry book. What wisdom is the world providing? And so that's kind of what I mean when I say from my background.
That gives me chills. How about you, Thérèse? What are you looking for in the slush pile?
I just want to say yes, yes, and yes to everything that Taraneh shared. I guess the part I will repeat is I want fresh voices, perspectives, not like a rehashing of the old. I don't want AI. Can I say that? I'm like, can we say that? Like, I don't want AI writing. I want real soulful writing um and perspectives, like people who are not afraid to share their perspectives and just like put it on the page as much as like because it's your soul, right? Putting it on the page and also something a gift for the collective. So obviously, I think when we're writing, it's for ourselves, but it's like also these books, I want it to be a gift for the collective. And I'm also very interested in people, voices of Black women and Black trans folks and Black queer folks and Black non-binary folks, folks that I don't often see published, Indigenous folks. Um, and or if they are published, it's very, very heavily edited to the point maybe the soul is taken out of it. So I'm really interested in those perspectives, people who are often pushed all the way to the margins and the edges, and bringing those voices into the center, not for just for consumption or pedestalizing, but to really listen and how can we be in relationship with this in good ways.
Absolutely. I want to amplify that. That would be very interesting for me as well. I I want books by Indigenous authors on where we are now in truth and reconciliation in Canada, and like kind of no bullshit books about where we need to go, but also just about life, stories, novels. I want the next queer femme Thompson Highway to come through Ninth House Press. That is what I want. I also, as I mentioned, I love books of essays. So essays, particularly about collapse, but not just about the grief, because I feel very ready for what I have experienced as a longtime prepper, which is the joy of the small and delicious life. That actually, the decline, I wish it was faster, not because I wish so much pain on people, but because it's so excruciating to go through a long decline. And I would actually rather be like, okay, we are going to live as though it's 150 years ago. And here's what's so beautiful about that. Here's what like write me a book of essays about the Luddites and the Catars and the Doukhobors and revolutionary spirit and holding on to craft and and also high demand groups. I'm still so interested in the tension between belonging and the revolutionary spirit. I want books of essays like that for sure. And I also really would love, so it's interesting to talk about like family history. I was just like having a visit with my cousin and my auntie, and we always end up talking about family stuff. And my Scottish great grandma, whose ring I wear on my right hand every day, Granny Graham. Everybody remembers her telling super scary ghost stories to the kids because she had the second sight and she had ghost encounters. So not like, ooh, I'm just going to tell you a spooky story, but like really scaring the crap out of the kids. But I would love a like witchy queer ghost story that was also kind of romantic, And if it's set in the Scottish Highlands, I'd love that, but it could be anywhere. But yeah, I would love some witches ghost hunting and solving mysteries. And I want some characters that are like very vengeful and like really make sure that bad guys get it in the end. But
I mean, I think one of the things I'm hearing is that we all want to read books that make us want to cry and then laugh and then cry and then laugh some more. And then at the end of it, be like, okay, let's go, like put it down and feel like it gave us some sustenance for this life to make our world, however small or big that is, a little bit better, a little bit brighter, a little bit more possible towards a future that we want to leave behind for other generations. I think we all want to just like laugh and cry a little bit more, a little harder.
totally.
As you're saying that, I'm just like, yeah, I want to read books that remind us that we're human. We're so dehumanized in this culture, and I want us to remember that we're humans. We're not machines. We're human. And that means the laughter, the tears, and so many things. And I think what Taraneh, you were sharing earlier about that's the beauty of actually doing business with your friends because we get to be human. Life happens, kids get sick, heartbreaks happen, and all sorts of other things. And if we're operating in a world where we're not able to be like, oh my God, I need a day off or I can't do this thing, can we find another way? What are we doing? What are we truly doing?
Mhm.
We're actually just machines. So I just want us to remember our humanity. And with the rise of AI, it's even more dehumanizing. So remember, remember, remember.
Totally agree. Therese, what's the intention you would like to set for our inaugural year in business? Like, what birthday blessing would you offer to Ninth House Press?
Wow. I feel like the birthday blessing is may you soar. May you soar. May you soar and may you touch so many different people, so many different lives, so many different communities. May it be a balm of healing in communities and hearts. May it weave belonging. May it create bridges. May it lead us back home to ourselves, to one another, to the earth. And and may we remember that we're beloved.
Beautiful. How about you, Taraneh?
I'm just like taking all that in. That was um so delicious. Thank you. Well, Ninth House Press. I'm closing my eyes. I'm thinking about you. sweet ancient baby being birthed. We love you already. We're so grateful you're arriving. I feel like we're midwives for what wants to already come through. Every conversations we've had along the way for Ninth House Press has felt a little bit like some urgency or intensity of labor, like, oh my God, it's coming. It's like, it's here. The baby's coming, with plenty of excitement, and it's going to have its own life. And it's going to be so touching. I think it's going to touch so many lives, and I'm really excited for that. May the birth of Ninth House bring blessings on every life it gets to touch.
I have that same image too of like, welcome to the world, little one. And I think of Ninth House Press like arriving like a baby, and then Thérèse is the first one to lay hands, and Taraneh says your name, and we're getting ready. But then it's almost like when a baby foal comes into the world, it's not like humans. That foal is like within minutes is like up on wobbly legs, and within a day is running around, and that's the very next thing is run free. Just run free.
I have chills all over my body hearing you say that. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, totally. Run free and fly. Let's go.
How can you support our cause? Well, join us. Become an associate member of our co-op. Doesn't that sound awesome? It's an associate membership, so you don't have the same rights and responsibilities as we have as worker members, but it is how you can belong to our community, belong to the Ninth House Press community and this movement. It's how you can support anti-capitalist business. It's how you can fund an alternative economy. I had a meeting with a small press publisher who has had a long and illustrious career in the literary world, both at like real tiny indie presses to the very largest public publishing houses. And she sat in all the chairs from, editor to author to publisher. And she said to me, in 2025, micro is the way to go. She was like, yes, this is a great idea. And since that conversation, Publishers Weekly, which is sort of one of the trade publications that is most influential in American publishing, at least, has had multiple, like I would say a half dozen articles of how co-ops and collectives are on the rise. They're having a moment in the publishing industry. People are like done with this globalized, consolidated, ginormous publishing industries. So micro is the way to go. We hope you'll go there with us. We will give you preview chapters and access to limited edition book bling, but we're also going to give you a chance to vote on selected book cover designs and maybe even titles, depends on the author. I'd love your help with mine. I still don't know. I'd love your feedback. Anyway, it's going to be collaborative and fun. And honestly, it's important work. Like we mean it when we say we're looking to publish the books getting banned before they even get a book deal. Books by people with marginalized and targeted identities, books by people with disabilities who can't keep up with the exhausting pace of the author-centered, social media-centered book launch era. Like we're gonna launch our books together. We're a team. Our authors are in a cohort and we're gonna collaborate. It's gonna be really hands-on, but it's also gonna be really body-friendly, real gentle on the nervous system. And we could really use your support as a follow on our socials, as a subscriber to our newsletter, but especially as an associate member of our co-op. It's $35 Canadian per year. And there are other perks too. So check out our website, ninthhousepress.com. I'm going to link to it in the show notes. ninthhousepress.com, number 9, THHOUSE press.com. Okay, and if you're interested in sending us a proposal, you will want to check out the submissions page on our website. We are now accepting submissions until November 15th, 2025 for fall/winter 2026 publication. As we said in the show, we're looking for world-building books that are going to give us ideas and models for how to live in the now while creating the more equitable and beautiful future we long for. We want fiction, nonfiction, poetry. We want strong, clear voices and high-quality writing for people who are not well represented by traditional publishing. We want anti-capitalism, anti-patriarchy, anti-fascism, anti-xenophobia, all of that, okay? You might be a new or an established author, even a very well-established author. I've been a little surprised at the very well-established authors who are asking me for a conversation about this, who've heard about this. So you could be a very well-established author who's just like not feeling aligned with the current shift to the right-wing politics that the big five publishers are making. Like, they may be a bastion of the liberal elite in our mind, but actually the reality is the big five publishers have been quietly opening right-wing imprints and platforming some of the worst people you know and their fascistic ideas, the worst of them. Did you know that? Like, I'm going to link to a Jacobin article from earlier this year, and yeah, eye-opening. If knowing that leaves you feeling a little disconcerted, a little conflicted, send us a proposal. We would love to see it. If you want to own your own work this time around, go to our website, ninthhousepress.com, and click on our submissions page. So one more time, that's the number 9, THOUSEPRESS.com. And thank you in advance. Every little gesture of support really means the world to us. Thank you, Thea Anderson, Chief of Staff of the Chani app, who did all of the astrological elections for this launch. Thea and other astrologers will be helping us to elect publication dates for all of our books. Thank you. I mean, it's a big, audacious goal, and we're doing it. And we hope you'll do it with us. So let's go.